All right, welcome back to Project 427. And I did an introductory video to Project 427, and in alignment with things just sort of spontaneously getting created by the hands, eyes, and heart together, I created 6 what I call epigesturetic kits. And this is an invitation for 5 other people to join into Project 427. And it's a co-creative project, so I have some sort of ideas in mind of how it goes, but the rest is up to us, and it's more about the timing that I don't know. We could all start on April 27th at 427, or we could just go into it right away with whoever gets a kit. And so these kits are for certain small niche of people, and obviously very small because there's only 5 that I want to ship out right now. And they're for people who have been diagnosed bipolar, who are adults that live in Canada, because I'm in Canada right now, and also who don't have any children in the home, because these kits do have small items that are not suitable for young children. These are for adults, and the small items are to help with dexterity, really small things, fine human hand movements, as well as to fit as many things as I can into this little box, and for each item to be as inexpensive as possible. So this is inexpensive. This project I'm starting is a gesture of bipolar friendship. A lot of times in some of the states, we reach out, we try to give a lot of our stuff away. When we're trying to be friendly, make friends, and in that state we feel really abundant. So this is partly harm reduction, to reduce the harm of how much we can give away. And it's also creativity augmentation, in that we can have like a tray of stuff in front of us, the same stuff for us who are starting this, and all at the same time of day, just meaninglessly play with it and go into this state of meaninglessness and zoom out into our peripheral vision from our focal, just sort of watch our hands, eyes, and heart move together. And we'll be doing this at the same time with the same items. Though if you get inspired to take some of the stuff that maybe you bought when you were in a heightened state and put it together in little kits and give it out to other people who are so-called bipolar adults to get into this movement at 427, go for it, because it would take me a lot of time to make kits for 2% of the world's population, 1 to 2%. So it's for that group, because even a couple days ago I was really depressed, like almost motionless, and then I got into creating this project, which I've had on my mind for a couple months, and now I feel completely fine. And it was basically because I spent time grabbing things and putting it together in a somewhat meaningful way, but from a space of I didn't plan these items, so it's unplanned. And I probably will explain some of these items in this video, just because I was thinking of not explaining it, but I just want to explain the sort of idea behind it, since I have this first kit organized. And for me, I don't know how long I'm going to last in functionality, so I have to go for it right now when I have that inspiration. Like tomorrow I might feel like I can't function at all. So part of this, as I explained, is to get the hand, eyes, and heart moving in a creative way without any purpose. It's completely meaningless. So much of how we stigmatize ourselves is because we don't feel like we have a meaningful place in society. So we try to go there, but this is sort of to go the other way and say, I really don't know what the meaning of anything is. really, but hey, I have these hands, I have eyes, I have a human body, I have a heart. Let's at the same time do this creative movement. It's sort of, if I think about it, it's sort of similar to how some movements are like, let's meditate and send peaceful energy at the same time a day. This is, let's move our hand, eyes, and heart with the same items, at least for us 6, at the same time a day, every day, and see if that creates anything. And if it creates anything, we could create something for other people of our friends if we are connected with the mental health community, for them to join in. And it can be whenever you notice 4:27 or at 4:27 p.m. There are no real rules. This is trying to tap into some of the things we might have already done, like bought a lot of stuff that we can't return. And also, you know, trying to make friends, and sometimes maybe having a hard time making friends in the common social way, like small talk, or, you know, sometimes it's hard to get a job in that mainstream movement because it's like information overload sometimes, and it doesn't seem to be fully in alignment with how our nervous systems seem to have changed themselves. Meaning maybe at one point we were stable and we were in society, and then all of a sudden one day, poof, we have this bipolar diagnosis. So this isn't about the illness aspects. There are a lot of great people helping people with the illness aspect, but it is quite well known, that we have this creativity, and it's generally associated with heightened states or energetic states. You know, we've all been educated about that, so I'll briefly mention if it comes up spontaneously, but I'm not going to go into it really that purposefully, because I feel that we have some skills and abilities that we're not fully tapping into. Maybe a lot of us are. I'm just speaking for myself. Even putting these kits together, it was fun. I wasn't thinking, so it's fun. This is also to be more in our hands and eyes, moving items in space instead of on the phone just going like this, which is fine too. And also, I feel like sometimes we get into these energetic states and our consciousness is quite powerful. So if that be true and we're doing the same thing at the same time, but in a meaningless way, not trying to force society to be a different way or change society, but just going into this sort of meaningless creative state, it could do something. And I talked about in the other video, which would be good to watch, other things. And also like less blue light. Like I feel like a few of us being on our phone in this creative meaningless state, sort of like creativity augmentation for a few minutes, could be quite powerful. You know, they say that people meditating together, even if in different points of the world, it's quite powerful. So this is about the hand, eye, heart movement, and doing it every day as a gesture of, yeah, there is some kind of meaninglessness, and sometimes we have a sense of meaninglessness, but with this stuff, we can maybe create something in 5 minutes. And then we see if we can create something in 5 minutes. If we ever have, you know, sometimes lows, we might be able to create something in 5 minutes and be able to be somewhat out of it, because moving the eyes, hand, and heart in this way gets us out of the self, and it's sort of training the body. So we could do this more too. So also like 6 of us together, not looking at our phones, but doing this, though it might be interesting to sort of record what you're doing on the phone and put a hashtag Synchronicity. So I created that word to encapsulate a lot of different things, which I won't go into here. So, you know, what we put our attention on, like human attention is the most powerful force in the universe. Like what we put our attention on, that grows. And there was a quote by David Bohm saying, "You are what you take in." So here we're just taking in some meaningless movement, just as our ancestors might have done something meaningless and made a discovery. So we could make discoveries with this stuff, but it doesn't really matter. This is sort of a representation of, instead of having that heightened energy and going out into society, which with interactions with others can create lots of like words and social interaction, which is very energizing. And then people can come to us with, what we perceive as meaningful messages, and then we go that way. And all of a sudden, after 10 minutes of heightened energy, we're like on a plane to the other side of the world because someone told us to. So this way, we plant our feet or plant our butts on the floor, and we use certain items to just get in movement with our hand, eyes, and heart, and not moving and looking at other people as much, because, at least for this beginning experiment, it's about staying still and creating and just moving these items around. We don't even have to create anything, just moving and looking at them. And this comes from lots of different theories and hypotheses I have within myself that I've unfolded over time, and it would take a long time to go into them all. But these first kits, it's a gesture of friendship. You're not alone in this creative energy that comes into you and just moves you in ways, and you get all excited and you feel like the world is so meaningful. And it is, and could be the point of these kits is that just moving stuff and our hand, eyes, and heart, just for the sake of itself, could possibly have some kind of effect. Because right now we're generally moving our hand like this, and we're looking for meaning, we're looking for good, bad, like, dislike, like conflict. Are we good enough? We're looking for all this sort of psychological, social proof of some kind that we fit in. And this is sort of taking a break from all that and fitting things into each other. Like, how does this go like this? Or it's completely meaningless. This is a gesture we really don't know what things mean, but maybe we can create meaningful things by being in this empty space. And I think it could help with possible, harm reduction, if you want to call it that. I didn't invent that, of spending or buying things to fulfill us. When we see how fulfilling it could possibly be to go into this meaninglessness and just sort of play with stuff, then perhaps that will inform the body of something. And I created this thing I call epigesturetics, which is, these gestures have an effect and a feedback on our bodies, the universe, possibly our genetics. And, in so-called bipolar, we have certain behaviors, and one is creativity. So this is sort of focusing on that. And it's also a kit that you sit at home. Like, if you're somebody who you're stuck at home and you can't really get out, this might be a good thing for you to try. And I also want to show the items because maybe you have some of these at home already, and you can just make your own little thing to do at 427 to be in this hand, eye, heart movement. And it's not exactly perfectly safe for us to go out and explore when we're in heightened consciousness. And this is also, a way to give away some of your extra little bits and bobs in a meaningful way. Sometimes we try to give all our stuff away when we bottom out of the high energy by writing a suicide note. I did that, and I tried to give all my stuff away to a friend to continue on the mission, some big meaningful mission, which now what I'm trying to do is go into the meaninglessness. Because when we get to that state where we want to just end our life and write a note, generally it's because life feels completely meaningless. And we could be onto something in that the movement of society, it has a lot of meaning, but after we go into the up state for the first time in the down state, society seems relatively meaningless compared to that up. Now, this isn't to get us to go up. This is to actually get us to create and be creative on a daily basis, instead of sort of waiting for this energy to like come over us and us dance through the universe. Because generally, even though we're feeling like we're understood by our explanations, the beauty we're pointing out, how great we feel, and maybe we're different around friends and family and singing and dancing and creating all these like poetry, and it's to get away a little bit from creating so many words. Because words, even if we speak with each other, half of it is lost in translation, like 50% we don't understand, something like that according to science. I don't want to talk about science that much, but there's that. And then if you're in an upstate, chances are most isn't being understood. So in a way, like, what's the point of saying it? And there could be a point, but for me, I feel like the words build on the words and build on the words, and the words convince themselves that the words are happening, like it's a perfect world and everything's so great and it feels great, but it doesn't last. So this is sort of, this is something people can do if they're in a low state. It can be done kind of in any state. And it would probably be good to do it if you're in sort of a lower state, at least I want to send out 5 kids. I don't know who to. So it would be nice if, I don't know who would be the most appropriate group of us to do so. And then anyone can do this 427 thing. And also, when out and about, right now I try to look for 427 because it's meaningless. And it helps to narrow the salience of all the other words and everything, and signs and lyrics and people talking that sound like they resonate with some kind of meaning about my life when it doesn't have anything to do with that. So it helps to sort of narrow that for me, I'm finding. And so focusing on that right now when I go out. And another thing this does is gets the hands, eyes, and heart moving faster than thought. So hopefully, possibly, when we use these items that I'm going to show, thought sort of drifts away. And thought is like this focal vision trying to pick things out of reality to grab, to use later, or to fulfill. But we go into peripheral vision, looking at everything, watching our hands move with the everything there, and our eyes. And don't remember what I said with that, but just, get them moving. And as they move, we notice that it's possible that thought subsides for a while. And then we can find out that, what we're trying to do in a way is get into a state of perception, action. And I learned about this from Krishnamurti, and he talks a lot about it. But what happens, I feel like, when we go up and we're out in society, we perceive the beauty and we act and say words really quickly. We can seem like we're talking really fast, or we can talk too much, or complete other sentences or whatever. So our words are like acting really quick. So much so that we're not even really feeling like we're the author of it. It's like the energy is the author. So this, if we didn't do that, we might keep ourselves out of trouble a little bit. So this is getting that perception action into meaninglessness, which is not words, and then putting things together, like, putting things together in new ways, seeing many different uses for the same item, thinking about how that item is used, considering where that item came from, creating with stuff. And not that we need more stuff in the economy or whatever, like useless things, but we can make a use for some of the useless things we've collected, which sort of gets rid of some of the feeling around, oh, maybe I shouldn't have bought that or whatever. And also, by having some things like this kit is more about augmenting creativity. I met someone who told me about a science Olympiad where they have all these challenges for people, like young students, and they like make new thing or invent something from a few items really quickly, or however it works. And this is sort of like a bipolar Olympiad. So, you know, just moving these things around meaninglessly. And it's important, the meaningless part is important, because then the hands, eyes, and heart are creating without the interjection of thought and pre-planning. And that's part of what gets in the way of creativity. And, you know, we can just like hold items and hold 2 items at the same time, or 3, or move them around in front of us, or start, you know, tying things together, but then it might be hard to untie them. So it's up to you how you want to do it. And again, it's just to get these things moving. And the other point of this is that, you know, when you think about AI, and this isn't about like prophecy or anything, but it's part of the conversation about like, what are we gonna have to do when AI takes over? Or maybe they'll like not want us to be here anymore, or if they do, what will we do? So I feel that the dexterity of the hands, I'm just saying this now, that it's gonna take a lot longer for AI to figure this part out. And, you know, it takes up a lot of our brains, and the hands right now for AI are like, like that Sophie robot just got new hands recently or something. And there's also no energy in the hands of AI. So the more energy we bring into the human hands and they're living, you know, we might be able to pass that energy on to other people with our hands. Like, you know, how did people become healers or whatnot? I don't know. So this is part of like healing the human hand, eye, heart connection with stuff. And there's other ways to do this. You know, people say smile, like there's a lot of friendly gestures we can do with people, like smiling and shaking hands and hugging. The thing that's troublesome for us possibly is if we're in a heightened state and we go out and start smiling and hugging people, they're gonna like give us stuff and like send us on our path to, you know, the next spiritual journey that we have to go on or something. Which is okay, but it's not really okay if we want to stay grounded and be able to interact with, say, family or friends we have now. So also, it's said that humans are going to always be more creative than AI. And so one could think, well, that's good, because words, you know, we can create a lot of words with so-called bipolar. Well, the thing is that I heard recently that if there's like a page or 2 of text, AI can analyze that and write like, I don't know, a whole book based on that. So we might not even be able to write, you know, though I think some of us do channel new like sentence structures. There's something that is definitely happening with our ability to use language poetically, metaphorically, creating new words, creating new sentence structures, playing with the different syllables of the words and recombining them and trying to make them more congruent. But I find for me that sort of burns out my brain cells. And sometimes when I do it, people actually start speaking the way that I just sort of created. So that can kind of in itself make me lose touch with you know, being grounded, because I just sort of created this weird language structure and then somebody starts doing it. And so it just shows like the real power to create from the inside out instead of taking stuff from the outside in. And it's just really hard to stay in that unless one is in like a beautiful, pristine, heavenly environment. And then if we were, there'd probably be no need to create new words and sentence structures to try to communicate in a more coherent way, because everything would be beautiful and perfect and we'd be living in harmony. We wouldn't need so many words of conflict and all of that. So I actually feel that, you know, so many words could be on its way out. Like, even look how people are more interested in Instagram photos than reading. And even for me, with the bipolar consciousness, if I start reading a book and I read 1 or 2 sentences, I all of a sudden get a download of like 10 times this amount of new information, which could be contained in another book, but to me it feels so new and exciting that I want to share it. But then how do I share it? And it's scattered all over the place, kind of like this stuff is right now. But also we can be in this movement around people of trying to explain ourselves and where we're getting what we're saying, and that can be a little like problematic too. And so yeah, so basically this is an invitation to claim a kit. This could seem really stupid, and it pretty much is. I just don't really know what else to do, and trying to experiment more with the silence, you know, resisting the movement of words to explain or speak as the self, and stay more with this movement of the creative energy that is animating the body, and find some way to start to embody that. And you know, it's kind of like there's the 100th monkey syndrome, that if 100 monkeys learn something, then all the monkeys in the world know it. And I don't know if that's a provable fact or whatever, but it's a thing, and it could relate to Rupert Sheldrake's morphogenetic field, which he talked about in a TED Talk, which is one of the only banned TED Talks. So why was it banned? Maybe because it has some kind of significance, but we can just say it has no significance, but for the sake of argument, because this isn't about arguing, this is about moving the hands, eyes, and heart. How much more can we argue? You know, there's a lot of great people advocating, and I want to do something a little different, because you know, I've been through a lot in this last few months, and words don't really do much. Another thing that I want to get to at some point too, to lead to less words, is having, this is something else I've created, which is different, which is having my gestures of friendship pre-created. So for example, it could be smiling and giving out one of these hair tie bracelets that I like to wear on my wrists, and then, you know, having 2 of the same one and giving one away. How much can one do that? I don't know. So it would be about having more gestures, and then trying not to explain oneself, but understanding that the movement of the human hand, eyes, and heart, the human hand, the human eyes, like some of the most powerful creations or evolutions in the known universe, working together, and knowing that we don't even have to say a word. Like a gesture, a human gesture, is more like maybe 1,000 times more powerful than a picture, just like a picture is 1,000 times more powerful than words or something. So but then at the same time, for us who go into these heightened states, we do go out and do all these gestures to the point of like giving everything we have away, and we need to learn, I need to learn how to mitigate that and reduce that. So part of it, like now I'm sitting in a basement, and so I've created this because, you know, I feel like it's possible that other people like me will understand, and I'm creating this, it's an experiment. It's kind of a social experiment for people with bipolar to start to show instead of tell. So we generally, we talk when we're in these states, and we're really social, and then when we fall out of it, we can't even contact our best friend, and we're feeling terrible. So this is a way to show our creative side, and maybe we don't even know like that we have this creativity, and a lot of times it wants to create words and that have some kind of meaning, and that meaning, as the meaning builds in our brain, we get sort of higher and higher and higher, and we could be like, well, this means I'm God. You know, I've gotten to that point, and then this is like just a pile of crap, and it's like, well, this means I'm a human being with some hands and eyes and a heart, and this moving together. Now, if I can get this working together with this, then maybe that might extrapolate and spiral up to being able to gesture to other people with less words, or you know, pass on this project 427, which is meaningless creativity and, you know, less words. And, you know, if you get one of these kits, I think you'll be pleasantly disappointed that nothing really has much value. And you know, we can get to the point of feeling meaningless in life and feeling like our whole body and being in life and everything that we've done up to this point has no value. And then with this kit, it's possible that we can see that there's value in this movement. And, you know, just as people like doing Tai Chi together or yoga together is supposed to be more powerful than by oneself, doing this together, you know, even if you do this, you know, create some kits, get your friends together and just sit down at a table and do this all together without like looking at what the other person is doing, because then we start, well, we can look at what the other person's doing if we're doing it with someone else, or if we only have one kit, you know, we can get the other person too, and like them moving based on what we're moving. I remember reading something recently where they tried to get the kids to create this big tower, and also like, you know, CEOs of some huge company to create a tower, and the kids were able to, I don't have the facts right, but the kids were able to create twice as high a tower because they didn't go based on social hierarchy. They just kind of like did stuff and then, you know, tore it down, and then the next person did this, and they got it really to build up. Whereas the other people, they're kind of like, should I move or should I not? So there's this hesitancy. So if we can start, you know, if we're alone with this stuff, we can move it however we want without any kind of hesitating, because the hesitating is thought. So this kit is supposed to be a gesture of friendship to other people like me. It's supposed to be kind of playful and fun, and also, you know, it goes based on the fact that people kind of like getting stuff in the mail. That's one of the reasons probably why, you know, that type of thing is so popular. And people also like being surprised. So I wanted to surprise you with what I put in this, but that can be for later. Like if you decide to do this with some of your friends around the world, you know, it's fun to get stuff in the mail. Another way to do it would be to create some kits for people you know, or you could even ask somebody like, hey, do you know somebody with bipolar, and like tell them about the 427 project. Just make sure it's safe for the kids, because some of the stuff can be small. So I want to emphasize that. And yeah, I want to invite you to show, I don't know how to, show what you make with it. You know, do a video and tag Synchronicity, or maybe Synchronicity 427. That's SYNCHROVER City, CITY. And so, you know, the name is part of it. It's to sort of create a city that is non-local, and we're sitting and we're synchronizing. So, and ver is to see, so it's about seeing, and yeah, I don't think this is like zooming in the best.